Depends if people stop talking and let me teach a lesson. All right, here it is. 6-2b, still solving with substitution, okay? Yesterday we said when you solve these problems, your answer is a point. So you get an x and a y. That is true most of the time, but there are times where your answer, just like when we graphed, what were the other two possible answers? If the lines were parallel, what was your answer?
Solution.
No solution, right? If the lines were exactly the same, it was infinitely many, okay? So today, it's the same thing. We're just solving them a different way. We're solving by substitution instead of solving by graphing. But you'll get some of those same answers. So I'm going to show you one of each, and then we're going to do a few review problems and call it good. Okay, first example. Your equations are x equals negative 2y plus 4 and 3.5x plus 7y equals 14. Okay. You know what? We're going to make a little list here of our steps just so we make sure everyone's doing this right. What should the very first thing you do be in these problems?
Check where your y and your x is.
Underline.
Which one is
Isolate.
To what? What's the word?
easier to
Starts with an I.
Isolate.
Oh, you guys are so smart. Okay, so step 1 is always isolate a variable. Does it matter which variable, x or y? No, you may do either one. Okay, so step 1 is isolate a variable. So let's look at this problem. Is there a variable that needs to be isolated, or has it already been isolated?
I mean, x is isolated.
X is isolated. So step 1 is done. You don't have to do anything because x is already by itself. Okay? Step 2 is once you isolate, you're going to plug that value in for the variable. Okay, so in this case, we know what x equals.
So then are you...
This is x. Okay, not 3.5 in for the x, right? So we're going to take the x out and we're going to put in our new expression. So it's going to look like this, 3.5, and then you're going to do, Jada, let me do it, negative 2y plus 4, okay? That replaces x. Then you're back to the red equation, plus 7y equals 14, okay? Your next step is solve for y. How do I do that? Distribute. So we're going to distribute the 3.5 to both of these. So 3.5 times negative 2 is a negative 7y, plus 3.5 times 4 is 14, plus 7y equals 14. Are you with me still?
Yes.
Okay. At this point, your next step is just to keep simplifying the problem. Notice what happens. You have a negative 7y plus 7y. What is that? What's negative 7y plus 7y?
Just cancel.
14.
It's 0, right? It goes away. It's 0. So these are gone. Now look what you're left with right now. 14 equals 14. Is that a true statement? Does 14 equal 14? Yeah. Your variables are gone. If your variables go away, you cannot name a point. So your answer, when you get something like this, that is a true statement, your answer is infinitely many solutions. Okay, that means I can plug any number in for x and y, for x, and my y will always be the same thing. There's a lot of different combinations, in other words, okay? There's infinite combinations. So infinitely many is your answer here. Questions on that?
So...
Okay, second one. Can we what? Okay, new problem. Y equals 3x minus 11. And y minus 3x equals negative 13. Okay? Yeah.
Wait, so like in the last one, since it was -7 and 7, they both cancel each other out.
Negative 7y plus 7y is 0, right? So then it just is gone. There's nothing there. Okay? Okay, look at this one. Step 1, isolate a variable.
Why?
It's already done, right? The y is by itself. Okay, so that's done. Step 2, now you're going to plug in, you're going to substitute what that y equals. So this is going to go in place of your other y. So it's going to be 3x minus 11. And then you finish off the problem. Minus 3x equals negative 13. Your next step is simplify. So if you look at this problem, you have 3x minus 3x. What is 3x minus 3x? 0. So the x's are gone.
So it'll be -11.
So you have negative 11 on the left, negative 13 on the right. Is that true? No. So if this is a false statement, your answer is no solution. There is no setup here that will get you a solution for this problem. Okay? Questions on that? Okay, so we're not gonna solve these problems. I'm just gonna give you an answer and you tell me infinitely many or no solution. Okay? If I came up with a problem and my answer was 6 equals negative 6, is that infinitely many or no solution?
No solution.
No solution. Those are different, right? This is no solution. Okay, if I came up with 17 equals 17, infinitely many or no solution? That would be infinitely many. So if it's true, infinitely many. If it's false, no solution. Okay, questions on that? Okay, I'm gonna do a few problems just like yesterday's, okay? Just as a make sure we're getting this. So here are your two equations. Your first equation is x equals y. Your second equation is x plus 2y equals 3. Okay? First step, isolate a variable.
It's already isolated.
It's already isolated. There's two that are isolated, right? Because if x equals y, you can plug in for x or you can plug in for y. So let's say we're going to plug in for this x. X equals y, so we can put y in place of that x. So it would be y, and then finish off your equation, plus 2y equals 3. You with me?
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
So you're saying since x equals y, the answer's gonna be y.
We can take out the x and put in the y because they're the same thing. X and y are the same, right? Okay, so your next step here is simplify, solve this. So you are doing y plus 2y is what?
1y.
Plus 2y would be 3y. So you get 3y equals 3. Now you divide by 3. So y is what?
Y equals 1.
Y is 1. Okay, now go back up. If y is 1 and I plug y in here, x is 1 because x equals y. Okay, so x would be 1 and you're done. Your answer then is 1, 1.
Infinitely many.
Not infinitely many. Infinitely many only happens if the x and the y go away. And we have an x and a y here.
So it's solution.
So your solution is 1, 1.
Okay.
Okay, second one. Let's say you have y equals 2x minus 10 and 2y equals x minus 8. Okay, first step, isolate a variable.
It's already isolated.
It's already isolated. Y is by itself, right? So this value right here is gonna go where?
To the y next to 2.
Right, you're gonna drop this in right here, Okay, so here's your setup. It's 2,
parentheses, 2x minus 10 equaling x minus 8.
right. Did you say what? No. Did you say what? Oh, okay. So simplify this. You're going to distribute first. So it's going to be 2 times 2x, that's 4x. 2 times 10 is 20, so minus 20, equals x minus 8. What's your next step? Not divide. You could add 20. I'm going to start with subtracting x, just to keep it consistent with how I've always done it. But you could add 20. So 3x minus 20 equals negative 8. And now I'm going to add the 20. Be careful with this step because I feel like this is where a lot of people make a mistake. It's 3x equals what? What? 12, right? A lot of people just add that or subtract it as if they're both positive or both negative. One's negative, one's positive. So negative 8 plus 20 is 12. Okay, then you're going to divide by 3.
Which equals 4.
So x is 4. Okay, once you know what x is, you got to come back up here and ask yourself, where do you want to plug that in? You can plug it in here, but I think it's easiest if you plug it in where it's been isolated. Okay, so I'm going to plug this x right here. So it's going to be y equals 2.
Parentheses 4 minus 10.
You're still talking. Ask me questions. It's much more helpful. So y equals 8 minus 10. So your y comes out to negative 2. Okay, that means your answer is 4, negative 2.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, never mind.
Okay? Okay, last one. Just out of curiosity, how many of you right now feel like I'm going to give you 3 levels? 1, I've totally got this. 2, I'm somewhere in the middle. Or 3, not getting this. Okay?
1.5.
Raise your hand if you're like, I totally got this.
I think so.
Okay. I'm like, so. Raise your hand. And I don't have a clue. This is not working. Okay. Last one. And then for those of you that feel like you don't get this yet, I will sit down with you in the last couple minutes. All right, here it is. 2y equals x plus 1. Okay, that's our first equation. Second equation is negative 2x minus y equals 7. Okay, first step is isolate. So now this one, there's nothing isolated right now, right? There is no variable that's totally by itself on one side of the equal sign. Which one would be easiest to get by itself?
The 2x.
The x in the top equation, right? Because this one doesn't have a coefficient. If it doesn't have a coefficient, that's a good one to get by itself, okay? So if you're looking at that equation, 2y equals x plus 1, we're going to subtract 1 from both sides. So it's x equals 2y minus 1. Okay, now if I know what x equals, I can take out the x and put in the 2y minus 1, right? This right here is going to get replaced, or the x is going to get replaced with that. So your equation, I'm going to put the x back in just so I don't confuse you later. Negative 2, drop in what x equals, 2y minus 1, and then you go back to finishing your equation. So this is negative 2 times x minus y equals 7. Okay?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you know how you subtracted 1? So did you just bring the 1 down on that side, like where it's 2y?
I don't know where you're looking. Right here?
Right here, yeah. It says 2y.
Right, so it was plus 1, so to get rid of it so that x would be by itself, I subtracted 1 and subtracted 1. So 2y minus 1, you can't combine those, so you just have to leave it as 2y minus 1,
Oh, okay.
right? You can't call that 1y because they're not like terms, okay? Okay, so this one, you're going to distribute. So negative 2 times 2y is negative 4y. Negative 2 times negative 1 is a positive 2. And then minus y equals 7. What's your next step? You what? Okay.
You could do the 4
Plus the-
and y.
Right, you're gonna go negative 4y minus y, right, is a negative 5y plus 2 equals 7. What's your next step?
Now you have to solve.
Take away 2, so you get negative 5y, this is 0, equals 5. Now what?
Now you have to divide.
Now you divide by negative 5. So y is negative 1. Okay? Now go back to where we started. We solved so that x equals 2y minus 1, right? I would take that negative y, or negative 1, and put it in place of my y. So it's going to be x equals 2 times negative 1 minus 1. So your x value is negative 2 minus 1, so your x value is negative 3. Okay?
Did you put the negative 1 into the answer of the x?
I plugged it in here or here, right? When we isolated x, I plugged it in there because that's just the easiest one to plug it into. Okay, so your answer is negative 3, negative 1. Okay, what if my answer came out to 7 equals 9? What's my answer? That's no solution. What if my answer came out to 13 equals 13?
That's solution.
Infinitely many. Okay? But if you get this, that is your answer. It's a point. Okay? Avery.
So if it's a point, then it's that.
If it's a point, your answer is the point. If you can get an x value and a y value, that's your answer. If there is no x or y left, like those two, it's either infinitely many or no solution. Okay?